Welcome to a meeting of your Planning Commission, the official local planning agency for the cities of Tampa, Temple Terrace, Plant City, and unincorporated Hillsborough County. The Planning Commission provides innovative leadership and long-range vision that contributes to the creation of a thriving, prosperous community that offers opportunity, fairness, and choice in how we live, move, learn, work, and play. For more information about the Planning Commission, please call 813-272-5940. Follow us on social media or visit our website at planhillsborough.org.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the February 10th, 2020 public hearing on the Tampa Comprehensive Plan Amendments. We thank you for attending this meeting. Your comments and participation are encouraged. If you will, please sign the register at the rear of the room if you'd like to speak on any items. When addressing the commission, please begin with your name, address, and speak directly into the microphone. For those of you not familiar with our process, our meeting will be conducted as follows. The agenda item will be introduced. Staff will give their presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following presentations, members of the public may address the Planning Commission when recognized by the chairman. Public comment will be heard for 3 minutes per person. The applicant will be afforded a 3-minute period for rebuttal or response. Planning commissioners will then ask questions. Public comment will be closed. Then upon a motion, second, and discussion, a vote will be taken. Roll call, please.
Good evening. Bernstein? Cardenas? Present. Dickerson?
Here.
Dix? Here. Dowdy? Here. Green? Present. Joseph?
Here.
Kress?
Here.
Marino? Powell? Here. Rodriguez?
Here.
Thrower?
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum?
Okay, thank you. We're going to jump right into our agenda. First up is Tampa Comprehensive Amendment 19-17. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. David Hay with your Planning Commission staff. Let's just. There it is. This first amendment this evening is TA CPA 1917. It is located within the Central Tampa Planning District, more specifically the West Tampa Urban Village. Here we have an aerial of the subject site. It's outlined in yellow, actually, has a red shading. This is North Willow Avenue. We have West Cass to the north. This is the CSX rail line that goes down to South Tampa. This is North Boulevard, and this is the University of Tampa campus. We've got the Hillsborough River, and you can see out of frame to the south would be Kennedy Boulevard. This is the Walmart down on Kennedy, so there's some commercial down to the south. And the area is generally light warehousing, heavy commercial uses. This amendment is privately initiated. It is small scale. It's approximately 1.78 acres. Currently, the site has a general mixed use 24 future land use designation, and the applicant is looking to go to that urban mixed use 60 future land use category. Here we'll look at a few photos. This is looking north, up North Newport Avenue. This is the subject site to the right. You can see there's some warehousing uses on the left side of the road. Here we're looking northeast toward the intersection of North Gilchrist Avenue and West Fig Street. This is the University of Tampa parking garage. This is the subject site. This was a plan amendment just about a year ago to that same urban mixed use 60 future land use category. Here we're looking northeast from the intersection of West Fig Street and North Newport Avenue. So the subject site is actually behind us over here where this palm tree is. Again, heavy commercial uses around the area. And now we're looking south down North Newport Avenue. This is the subject site, and this is looking south. This is the actually part of the the field for UT that's along Kennedy. You're seeing that's those lights there. Here we have the currently adopted future land use map. It's hard to see, but this is it's a light blue, similar to what's to the west and to the north west and to the southwest. It's all that general mixed use 24. Then immediately to the northeast, we have the pink, which is that urban mixed use 60, and that goes up to about Cass. And on the east side of the railroad tracks, we have the blue representing the public, semi-public, and the University of Tampa. It is hard to see. There's a different shade of pink down to the south, more urban mixed use 60. This is the TGH expansion. Currently, it's a parking lot, but it's approved for a large medical facility associated with Tampa General. And then this light brown is the residential 20. Then you've got some community mixed use 35, the darker pink, and then some residential 35 to the north of Cass Street. It's hard to tell, but now this site is the same as what's to the northeast, that urban mixed use 60 future land use category. Currently under that general mixed use, it could be considered for up to 42 dwelling units or a maximum of 116,000 square feet. Under the urban mixed use 60, that would go up to 106 units or a maximum of 251,992 square feet. It would allow for higher residential density and greater commercial intensity, but it would remove any consideration for light industrial uses. Those light industrial can be considered under that general mixed use 24. I should also note that residential uses can be guided either by the unit count or the floor area ratio, so you could potentially have more than 106 if they went with smaller units. Or that urban mixed use 60 does allow for that flexibility, and that's handled at the zoning stage. Of course, we sent this out to our reviewing agencies. None raised any concern. There was a note from the school board regarding currently the Wilson Middle, Gorey Elementary, and Plant High School. They do not have current adequate capacity at this time. But at this stage, they are only reviewing for capacity and do not provide a concurrency determination. A concurrency review will take place prior to the preliminary plat or site plan approval. Your staff have reviewed the comprehensive plan and found that the proposed map amendment request for the urban mixed use 60 future land use category would be consistent with the adopted policy guidance within the comprehensive plan. Your staff found four main areas of consistency. The first area was the promotion of infill development to help meet the city's anticipated population growth of 150,000 new residents by the year 2040. This infill is encouraged to be located in proximity to major employment centers. The subject site is located approximately 3,000 feet west of the central business district. The second area of consistency was the promotion of development within the Central Tampa Planning District. The Central Tampa Planning District is recognized as the primary urban employment, civic, and cultural center for the city of Tampa. Another area of consistency deals with the comprehensive plan's promotion of the area just to the west of the Hillsborough River as a medical educational district. The proposed UMU 60 land use category supports this goal by providing additional density and intensity adjacent to the University of Tampa campus. And finally, the comprehensive plan supports the development pattern that is supportive of transit usage and pedestrian activity. The UMU 60 future land use category typically develops out with a pattern that's provides for a density in keeping with that urban style of development. So, shouldn't be a surprise, but the Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed map amendment be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan. That concludes my presentation. I know the City of Tampa staff is present. I don't believe they have any presentation. They had no concerns with the request. So, but we are available if you have any questions.
Okay. Would the applicant like to speak on this item?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Michael Horner, 14502 North Dale Mabry Highway, Tampa, 33618. I'm representing the ownership interest, Mr. Jack Hamilton, Hamilton Engineering and Surveying Incorporated. This is currently the Lucky Dog facility, if you're not familiar with it. It's where a lot of dogs go. My son has his dog there. He's a little frustrated by this transition, but I think David's report is most thorough. I think these comments are mostly, if not entirely, not objectionable. We have worked hard with staff. We have filed, I think, a fairly complete request for the CPA. There's no question. When I looked at the report and I saw David's comment on the GMU 24, which is our existing plan sector, indicated there's no clear identifiable development trend. And that is unfortunately the pattern for GMU 24. That is not the case today. There is a clear identifiable development trend, and that is for infill development that is moving away from light industrial. We are zoned IG right now that has a higher FAR, that has no restrictions on uses. Anything in the UMU 60 has to go to a PD district. The primary reason for a client filing this is not for non-residential uses, not commercial. Cannot do industrial in UMU 60, thankfully, but we are seeking for the conversion to dwelling units, and most reasonably in the market, consistent with what's been happening out there, and the most recent PD approved to the northeast corner is for student housing for the University of Tampa. So they are our neighbor. They are across the CSX Railroad. This is only 1.78 acres. If we only use the density of the UMU 60, it would only be 106 units. We are thankful that we have that benefit of utilizing the floor area ratio. So instead of the 1.25, we are actually at 3.25, 1.5 to 3.25, more than doubling that floor area ratio. And as David mentioned, as we downsize those units, we're not doing 3-bedroom, 2 baths for student housing. We'd be looking at smaller studios and efficiencies. That unit count goes up significantly. This gives us an opportunity to be consistent. If you looked at that map, virtually every single parcel that borders that CSX Railroad right-of-way to the east is already UMU 60. We are continuing that pattern to the southwest. We know these streets are local. There are future improvements that are going to be proposed. This is not the PD rezoning stage, as you're all aware. We have to go through a very detailed and arduous plan development rezoning. That process was just completed by the developer and property owner to the northeast. We intend to follow those footsteps following your approval, thankfully, as well as City Council approval on this. I'm not aware of any objections, so we've sent out all of our notice. We've received no responses. If I can just show example of an elevation that was filed as part of that CPA on the prior case. This is part and parcel of the parcel to the northeast, which is the student housing. That is the type of urban density and urban form that is taking shape in this area. So we're transitioning away from light industrial, warehousing, monolithic structures, semi-tractor trailers. Those are dinosaur uses of the past. This is a dynamic area, West Tampa Village, as David mentioned. This is the trend. This is where the land values go. This is where the market is pushing us. And I think it makes sense to look at a similar use in our property as well. Happy to answer any questions, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment on this item? No public comment. Any questions from commissioners? Okay, someone like to make a motion? Commissioner Dowdy?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to recommend that the Planning Commission find the proposed land use designation change from GMU 24 to Urban Mixed Use 60, UMU 60, consistent with the Imagine 2040 Comprehensive Plan, and forward the recommendation to City Council.
Got a motion by Commissioner Dowdy, a second by Commissioner Powell. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
The next item, item number 3 on the agenda, Tampa Comprehensive Amendment 19-19 has been continued due to an issue with the notice that was put out in the newspaper. So that will be continued till our March meeting. So we're going to move on to Tampa Comprehensive Plan Amendment 19-20.
It's continued actually
To the May?
next cycle.
Okay, it'll be continued till the May meeting. So that's good.
Jennifer Mullen with your Planning Commission staff. I'm here to present on Tampa Comprehensive Plan Amendment 1920. This is also known as the Memorial Hospital. It's located in the South Tampa Planning District. It is specifically located in the Palmacia Pines neighborhood. However, the line for the neighborhood associations is on West Swan Avenue, and that's where it transitions to the Parkland Estates neighborhood south of West Swan. So all of this is Palmacia Pines in the north. But that does transition to the Parkland Estates south of West Swan, and that's also where we see that transition to the single-family detached housing south of West Swan. The immediate areas surrounding the hospital is a lot of medical facilities and some multifamily housing. And it's this subject site right here. We have the hospital uses and then a couple parking lots as well. And then this is, this is a medical use right here, but it's not part of the amendment. This is a privately initiated small-scale amendment at about 8.78 acres. It has several future land use designations: public, semi-public, community commercial 35, community mixed use 35, and residential 20. And this amendment would just take all of that to public, semi-public. This is Memorial Hospital facing south from West De Leon Street. This is Habana Avenue right here that actually has been vacated by the hospital. This portion of the hospital is already designated public, semi-public. It'll be a little bit easier to see when I show the future land use map. But this is another part of the amendment. It's a parking lot located on the northern side of West De Leon Street. This portion of the amendment has two future land uses. It's a residential 20 and community commercial 35. It's another parking lot located on the southern side of West De Leon Street. This also has two land uses of community mixed use 35 and community commercial 35. And then this is a surrounding area. We're at West De Leon Street facing west towards the main hospital building. You can kind of see it in the background. And then this is not part of the amendment, but it is a medical office that's located at the corner of South Habana Avenue and West De Leon Street. So it is a little bit of the surrounding area uses. This is the adopted future land use map. The blue is portion of the hospital that's already designated as public. The red is community commercial 35, the pink is community mixed use 35, and then this brown color is a residential 20. So earlier on those site pictures, this was one of the parking lots right here, and this was another portion of the parking lot on another site picture. As I said earlier, it does transition to a single-family detached development pattern south of West Swan Avenue. This is that Parkland Estates neighborhood. It's residential 6, which is a very low-density single-family detached future land use designation. Community commercial 35, which is the red, and the community mixed use 35 do allow for some commercial uses. And then the residential 20 does allow for some attached low-density dwellings. The proposal would take this entire subject site owned by the hospital into public, semi-public. I should also mention that several other hospitals in the city are already public, semi-public, such as Tampa General Hospital on Davis Island and St. Joseph's as well. So this is not an unusual amendment. So right now, if we combine all of those future land use categories, the impacts are 188 units currently, or the up to 400,000 square feet approximately. If this is approved, there would be no maximum because it's not defined under the public, semi-public, but it is guided by the development pattern within the area, and I'll point out those policies as next in my consistency review. So as I said earlier, this future land use designation does support public uses, including hospitals, but the comprehensive plan states that the design shall complement Tampa's neighborhoods. Also, the comprehensive plan encourages non-residential uses to remain sensitive and compatible to the surrounding neighborhood. And as I said, while there is no maximum, it will be controlled through the surrounding uses, and that's how we review these. And so with that, we did find it consistent, and I'm available for any questions. The City of Tampa staff is here, but I don't believe they have a presentation. They also found it consistent as well.
Okay, thank you. Any, would the applicant like to speak on this item?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. Chris Daugherty with SNME, 1615 Edgewater Drive, Suite 200, Orlando, Florida, 32804. Just to put a kind of a fine point on the presentation, which was very, very thorough. Really, this is about making the future land use map consistent for the whole property. Right now, we have 4 land uses. They don't exactly jibe with a institutional use. So our client is looking to make sure to secure a consistent future land use for the entire site, understanding that when it is time for redevelopment or development on the site, we have to come back, rezone the property, and go back through the hearing process. So with that, I'll turn it over to you for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment on this item? You please come forward, state your name, address, and you have 3 minutes per person.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Laurie Lackman. My address is 2804 West Fountain Boulevard. I'm a member of Parkland Estates, and I am the president of the Civic Association. To be succinct, I've been a member of the neighborhood for 10 years, and I don't have a problem with their land use designation change at all. It seems consistent with other hospitals in the community. Don't have a problem with it. I'm here to establish for the record the problem that we have is with the noise pollution that is created by the chillers on the roof in our lovely neighborhood. And it is very intermittent, but it is very loud at times, to the point that it can be heard up to 4 blocks south of Swan. Neighbors that are 4 blocks south on Sims Boulevard. And we've had 2 EPC studies performed in the backyards of that face Swan and Memorial. And both studies were only conducted for about 1 to 2 hours. And I believe they were both in the morning. And they both resulted in the noise level being at the very upper limit that is allowed for noise, which was 55 decibels, I think, going by memory. And the problem is that the noise pollution is so intermittent that it's hard to capture the violations in the noise in a 1 to 2 hour period. But it is, it's annoying, and our residents are not happy with it. We have been dealing with Memorial for 3 years, starting March of 2017. Mr. Grondin, Thomas Grondin, did come to one of our meetings, and really didn't, said that they're planning future development and they would take care of it in the future, but they had no solutions for taking care of the noise. And I know there are solutions for that, but there doesn't seem to be a high motivation, because both EPC studies were at the upper limit of 55. So there's really no motivation for them to do it other than being a good neighbor to Parkland Estates. So I just want to go on the record that this is a concern. We're also concerned about future changes in the zoning that may affect stormwater, and want to make sure that we go on record that we have a lot of flooding in Parkland, as a lot of South Tampa does. So that's a concern as well. But thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Jane Simon. Can you hear me? Hi, I'm Jane Simon. I live at 2830 West Fountain Boulevard in Tampa, Florida, 33609. I'm a member of the same neighborhood association as Lori. I've lived in the neighborhood for 7 years now, and this noise pollution has been a major issue for the last 3 years. We're a neighborhood of over 350 households. We do see ourselves as growing quite a bit, and this is a concern of everybody, because the noise is just not something you can ever predict. It's not worse in the summer than it is in the winter, and it really affects the houses that live right up against the hospital, live directly south of it, but it affects all of us because we all spend time in the neighborhood, and you can't walk your dog, you can't walk with your children or ride your bike without hearing the noise. It's a major concern for everybody. Like as Lori explained, we're not concerned necessarily about the hospital expanding. We understand that that's been in planning for a long time, but we've been in discussions with the hospital for 3 years, and they've done nothing to fix this.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Please come forward.
Good evening. Carolyn Stanton, 2713 West Fountain Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, 33609. My property does directly back up to that area south of Swan, and I'm a native of Chicago. I moved here 3 years ago, and when we were looking at properties in South Tampa, when we were considering Parkland Estates, we physically stood in the backyard and listened for hospital noise. I'm aware it's an urban surrounding. I'm aware that, you are going to get some sort of noise, but we were pleasantly surprised at that time and chose to purchase our home. Over the past 3 years, the noise has been so unpredictable and so loud that part of why I moved here was to be able to enjoy sitting outside in my yard, and I can't even sit outside and have a conversation on the phone with this without this constant humming from the air conditioning units. I'm a member of the Parkland Estates Association, and I've brought my concerns to Lori and the other members of the board, and it's really detracting from the enjoyment of my property, my home. We're just asking for them to be good neighbors. We're not opposed to the rezoning. We just really want them to address this problem. If they can't address this problem over a period of 3 years, what's going to happen when they do further expand the hospital? We're just asking for reciprocation in terms of them being considerate of their neighbors as well. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Please come forward.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Brian Jeffrey, and I also live in Parkland Estates. I live at 2709 West Fountain Boulevard. I live directly south of Memorial Hospital, and my wife and I have lived there for now 22 years. And I would like to say that my wife and I, for our part, actually do oppose the future land use amendment for Memorial Hospital. The reason being is that I see this as the first step in Memorial Hospital's plans for the future. I'm not sure what those plans are, but I don't think that they mean that they'll have a good outcome for my wife and my family. And the reason why I say that is because I understand that this is the first step for Memorial Hospital to rezone the property so they can increase the intensity of use of the property. Well, the current use of the property right now is objectionable to all the neighbors that I've spoken to. Some of my neighbors have gotten up and spoken who live along Fountain Avenue and South. So why would I want to assent to Memorial Hospital increasing the use of their property and increasing the construction that they have there now? A few things that I do want to mention to the board in this regard is that having lived there 22 years, my family has dealt with multiple issues with Memorial Hospital. And I would have to say that Memorial Hospital has not been a good neighbor. My neighbors have mentioned the air conditioning units. I've lived there long enough to tell you that Memorial Hospital had a construction phase a few years back in which they replaced those air conditioning units. The air conditioning units that were originally there were very close to the roof line, and they had a sound buffer on them. They constructed an I-beam steel frame for the new air conditioning units, lifted them up, and these are variable speed air conditioners, and they're much louder. Now there's direct sound coming into my backyard, which is at the tolerance limits for the EPC. And I was one of the neighbors that actually had measurements made from my backyard. It exceeded 55 on multiple occasions, but the way that the measurement is made for the Environmental Protection Commission's standards, it's over a 10-minute period, which averaged at 55. If it exceeded 55, Memorial Hospital would have been required by the EPC to do something about it. But it gives you an idea of the extent of the noise. Some other issues that we've dealt with is the ambient light from Memorial Hospital and from their parking lot. and also the delivery trucks, which routinely stop on Swan Avenue, block traffic, honk their horn to announce their presence, and have on one occasion gone through my back fence. So I would have to say that since Memorial Hospital's use to the current property has not been beneficial to me and my family, I would object to any future intensive use of that property.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else? You have 3 minutes.
Jim Ganther, 2811 West Fountain Boulevard. My family has lived at 2811 West Fountain Boulevard for over 26 years. Our backyard is directly opposite the Memorial Hospital emergency room. And on 3 or 4 occasions, I have been very glad for that proximity. For the rest of the 26 years, not so much. I'm here this evening specifically because of my dinner last night. We had a celebration for my daughter who got accepted to Florida State University, the 6th of our children to become a Seminole. We got one who went elsewhere. It was a beautiful night for a dinner outside. I baked homemade yeast rolls. I rubbed and I grilled sirloin steaks for 9 people, and we ate outside, and that's why we live in Florida. But last night you heard that the noise pollution from Memorial Hospital is intermittent. It chose last night to go off the chain. We could not hear each other speak. It is literally a legal nuisance. And so I cannot support Memorial Hospital expanding its footprint while it is not being a good neighbor with its existing footprint. If we had some assurance that noise abatement would be taken seriously and performed at Memorial Hospital, we'd be great and welcoming neighbors. We'd say, expand, we love you. But right now, they're not holding up their end of the equation. To the extent you have it in your power to abate that nuisance, the Parkland Estates Civic Club begs that you do so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment?
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having us this evening. Karen Green. I'm a resident at 2816 West Fountain Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, 33609. I happen to live right across the street from Mr. Ganther, who just spoke. As my neighbors that have come before me have mentioned, I'm not opposed to the expansion, but I'm asking for a show of good faith, a sign that Memorial Hospital wants to be a good neighbor with Parkland Estates. I have a large family. There are 6 of us. We hear the noise intermittently, louder on certain nights, just as my neighbors have just indicated. And what I heard in the land use proposal were words that they would like to complement and be compatible to the surrounding neighborhood. And when I think about complementary and compatible characteristics, that means taking into consideration the voices and the sentiments of the neighborhood that surrounds them. The noise barrier technology is readily available, and it's not that expensive when we think about the capital investment that is that Memorial Hospital is considering. And so I ask the commission to significantly weigh on the testimony that you've heard this evening from the community, because I do not believe that the livability in my neighborhood is the same as it was 5 years ago when we moved in. Thank you for consideration, and we hope that that you've heard from the hearts and the minds of the community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Applicant would like to respond?
Mr. Chair, if I may introduce Kathy Edmiston. She is an administrator at the hospital. She may be able to shed some light on some of these issues. Thank you.
Hi, Kathy Edmiston. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Memorial Hospital of Tampa, which is located at 2901 West Swan Avenue in Tampa, 33609. And I really do feel the need to be a good neighbor. I've been with Memorial Hospital now for a year, and as soon as I arrived and started getting messages from Parkland Estates, from the Homeowners Association, I did request immediate options for us to put in an immediate solution, which we did. So what we did was install acoustic panels in that current unit that is on the roof. And we have a plan for future, any building that we do or any new units that we install, the plan will have a full screen around it, which will abate quite a bit of that noise. I feel personally responsible for the backyard activities of our neighbors. I know how I would feel if I were out there with my family, and I do try to ensure that our hospital, treats our neighbors as family. So I'm already scheduled to go and speak with the Homeowners Association in March, and I hate that I had to meet them here, but that is my goal. So we will work towards solutions immediately, additional solutions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would the applicant like to respond? That was your response?
No, thank you.
Okay. Okay, any questions from commissioners? No questions?
Mr. Chairman, understanding the thank you. Understanding the concerns of the residents, Parkland Estates, I think we need to make it clear that it's beyond our purview to address this issue. That is definitely an issue that has to go before the City of Tampa, the City Council, to address that noise issue. We are here today only to address the issue of the proposed comprehensive plan amendment. But with that said, I would like to go ahead and make a motion to find Tampa Comprehensive Plan 1920 consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan and forward it on to the City of Tampa for their review.
Okay, got a motion by Commissioner Green, a second by Commissioner Joseph. Any further discussion before we vote?
Just one,
yeah,
just one, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Green, you laid that out brilliantly. I think that was very important, and I just want to reiterate that while we're simply finding, a technical legal language of consistency, I do hope that the petitioner, the applicant, and the representative for the applicant has heard the loud and clear the desires of the surrounding neighbors. And I just feel like we all concur with that, because it only makes logical sense that land use be consistent for the entire ownership, but we want to make certain that they're good neighbors. So thank you.
Any other comments before we vote? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next up is Tampa Comprehensive Plan Amendment 19-21.
Good evening, Commissioners. David Hay again with your Planning Commission staff. The next item for your review is TA CPA 1921. It's a text amendment to the comprehensive plan. A little background, it is publicly initiated by the Tampa Legal Department and, of course, the City of Tampa. They are proposing the deletion of Neighborhood Policy 5.1.9. The Legal Department has deemed that the current wording of the Policy 5.1.9 is legally problematic. And that's based on recent case law regarding protected classes. Planning Commission staff reviewed the comprehensive plan and did find that the proposed text amendment to delete Neighborhood Policy 5.1.9 would be consistent with the adopted policy guidance within the remaining portions of the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan seeks to protect residential neighborhoods from incompatible uses, permitted zoning districts, and what future land use categories they are permitted in are outlined in Section 27-21 of the Land Development Code. Any zoning district which is not consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive plan according to the consistency matrix shall not be permitted, applied for, nor approved. The popularity of a proposed use by the surrounding residents or stakeholders is not a factor in how the city regulates uses. The deletion of Neighborhood Policy 5.1.9 would not eliminate or reduce any existing protections for residential neighborhoods. There are remaining policies in there regarding neighborhood protection. And lastly, the comprehensive plan is also clear that discrimination of any kind based on the overall use or the people that will occupy that use is not tolerated within the city of Tampa. The deletion of Neighborhood Policy 5.1.9 would remove any ambiguity regarding the regulation of uses based on the popularity of a particular use and would further several neighborhood and housing-related comprehensive plan policies. So based on that, Planning Commission staff did find the text amendment consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan.
Okay, thank you. Does the city of Tampa want to speak? Nope, okay. Any public comment on this item? Okay, no public comment. Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Green?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if I don't want to put you on the spot, but LaShawn, I'm sorry. If you have any further, can you shed any more light on this in terms of how it sort of came about? I know you can't speak to the legal aspect of it, but.
Originally, we've had discussions with Rebecca Kurt with the city legal department. She has actually left the city, but their concern was that in how it was worded in regards to locally unpopular, and the legal department was saying that whether it's locally unpopular, they were saying the wording could be construed that it's a popularity contest, basically. On, so many neighbors think they don't like this, so the city council could deny it based on that policy, and that's where their concern was.
Sorry, because the language is explicit in terms of what was taken out.
It was that one. It was really the locally unpopular was where the lawyers
Okay.
felt uncomfortable. Yeah.
Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious if locally unpopular was the concern, why not just take out locally unpopular and leave the rest?
Well, I think when we looked at it, there were other policies that offer protections to neighborhoods, more worded in regards to the consistency matrix and zoning based on the particular use. So we felt that staff felt that it was better just to delete the whole policy, that we have other policies that provide assurances to neighborhoods. We didn't feel like we needed to keep that policy, and that they didn't offer any rewording of the policy either that they felt that they needed.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm just curious if when you're deleting the whole entire provision there, one of the things I noticed there was, for power lines, and I know that the almighty TICO, they really get to do whatever they want to do anyway, so I don't know if we have any, other protections, for power lines going through trees and your trees getting whacked. So I've experienced this, and I'd like that to be noted on the record.
That's good. So, any other comments? Questions? Someone like to make a motion? Commissioner Dowdy?
I'll move that the Planning Commission find the proposed text change for City of Tampa CPA 1921 consistent with the Imagine 2040 Comprehensive Plan and forward to City Council.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Dowdy, second by Commissioner Green. Any further discussion before we vote? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Commissioner Powell's opposed. So the motion passes, 8 8 in favor, Commissioner Powell against. 8-1. 7-1? 7-1. Okay, I can't count. 7-1. Yes.
Sorry, I want to just apologize. Sean, I'm looking right in your face and called to on this name. I'm sorry. Okay.
We are moving on to item number 6, which is the Tampa Comprehensive Plan Amendment 19-18, Future Land Use Map Amendments. We will vote on these individually, as we have in the past. These are the different various parks.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. This is Tampa Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment 1918, and it's Parks A through G. Tonight we'll hear for a map amendment for 7 parks. It'll be Aids Memorial Park, Ballast Point Park, Centennial Park, Cuscaden Park, 22nd Street Park, Tappan Tract Park, and Takomah Trail Park. Quick background, this is a publicly initiated request by Tampa City Council to recognize 7 existing City of Tampa parks. Each park is listed on the City of Tampa dedicated park list. All sites would be recognized through the recreational open space future land use designation. Planning Commission staff reviewed the request and found the request consistent with a number of policies in the comprehensive plan relating to promoting recreation and open space opportunities throughout the city. Our first park is Site A. It's Aids Memorial Park. It's in the Central Tampa Planning District, and it's in the Hyde Park, Spanish Town Creek neighborhood. This is an area of the subject site and the surrounding properties. The site is outlined in this purple color. This is Bayshore Boulevard. This is Publix on Bayshore, just to the north of the subject site. This is Tampa General Hospital. And then this is the Selman Expressway, just to the north of the site. This is the adopted future land use map. This dark brown color is the residential 83. There's a little RMU 100 piece just to the north. This is all recreation open space noted by this green color. And then there's some residential 50 just to the west of the subject site. This is the proposed future land use map. This is looking at the entrance of the park from Bayshore Boulevard. This is looking north across Aids Memorial Park. This is looking at some of the art that's on display at the park. This is looking south across Aids Memorial Park towards Bayshore. This request would remove the consideration of residential and non-residential uses from the site. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff found the request consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan.
Okay.
Does
the applicant want to speak on this? No? Nope. Okay. Any public comment on this item? No public comment. Any questions from commissioners on 19-A?
One quick question, Danny.
Okay.
Is this park that's being deeded over? This land was deeded over to the City of Tampa for open space purposes, or
no?
This
is an existing City of Tampa park.
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions concerning 19-18A? Someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we find 1918A consistent and forward it on to the City of Tampa City Council.
Second. Okay, got a motion by Commissioner Joseph, second by Commissioner Green. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to 1918B.
Okay, so our next site is Ballast Point Park. It's in the South Tampa Planning District, and more specifically, it's in the Ballast Point neighborhood. This is an area of the subject site and surrounding properties. The site's outlined in this purple color. You'll see it's predominantly residential in character. This is the Tampa Yacht Club just to the south of the subject site. This is the adopted future land use map. A majority of the site is currently recreational open space. This area to the north is residential 20. You'll see that it's surrounded by residential 20 to the west of the subject site.
Danny, just, excuse me just a second. HTV, could you switch to the PowerPoint, please?
This is the adopted future land use map. This is looking at the entrance to the park from Bayshore Boulevard. This is looking at Joe Abraham's Fitness and Wellness Center, which is located in the northern portion of the park. This is looking north across Ballast Point Park. Bayshore would be on our left-hand side. This is looking east across Ballast Point Park towards Hillsborough Bay. Again, this would remove the considerations of residential and non-residential development from the site. Based on those considerations, Planning Commission staff found the request consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment on this item? Any questions from commissioners? Okay, no questions. Someone like to make a motion?
I'll make another motion that we find TACPA 1918B consistent and forward it on to the City of Tampa.
Got a motion by Commissioner Joseph, second by Commissioner Green. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Our next park is Site C. It's Centennial Park. It's in the Central Tampa Planning District and in the historic Ybor neighborhood. This one will be forwarded to the Barrio Latino Commission on February 25th prior to City Council. This is an aerial of the subject site and the surrounding properties. The site's outlined in purple. This is East 7th Avenue. The site's on East 9th and East 8th. This is the Ybor City State Museum just directly to the north of the site. This is the adopted future land use map. The site is currently residential 50. This is the proposed future land use map, showing the recreation open space outline or shown in green. This is looking south across Centennial Park from East 9th Avenue. This is another image looking south. This is looking north at the Ybor City Museum. That's directly to the north of the subject site on East 9th Avenue. This is looking at the Ybor Art Studio, which is located in the western portion of the subject site. Again, this request would remove the consideration of residential and non-residential development from the subject site. Based on those considerations, Planning Commission staff found the request consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment on this item? Any questions from commissioners? Okay, someone like to make a motion?
Chairman, move for a finding of Tampa Comprehensive Plan 19-18C as being consistent with the City of Tampa's comprehensive plan.
Motion by Commissioner Green. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Powell. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Our next site is Site D. It's Cuscaden Park. It's in the Central Tampa Planning District in the VM Ybor neighborhood. This is an aerial of the subject site. It's outlined in this purple color. This area to the northeast and west of the site is predominantly residential, and you'll see more commercial as you move towards the interstate to the south. This is the adopted future land use map. It's currently in the UMU 60 future land use category. There's residential 10 to the west and further to the east of the site. There's residential 20 directly to the west and north of the site. And then there's that CMU 35 just to the south of the site. This is looking at the Cuscaden Pool. That's currently on the southern portion of the site. This is looking north across Cuscaden Park. This is looking south. Again, this would remove the consideration of residential, non-residential development from the subject site. Based on those considerations, Planning Commission staff found the request consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan.
Okay. Any public comment on this item? Any comments, questions from commissioners? Commissioner Green?
Nope. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm up. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for finding of consistency for City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan 19-18-D.
A motion by Commissioner Green, second by Commissioner Joseph. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Okay.
Our next park is Site E. It's 22nd Street Park. It's in the Central Tampa Planning District, and it's also in the Old Seminole Heights neighborhood. This is an area of the subject site and the surrounding properties. It's outlined in this purple color. This is Tico property just to the south of the subject site. This is Rogers Park Golf Course, and then you'll see some single-family residential to the west and northwest of the subject site. This is the adopted future land use map. The southern portion is is light industrial. It's denoted in the gray color. And then the northern portion is this residential 20. There's residential 10 to the west and south of the subject site, light industrial further to the south, and then this is currently recreational open space to the east of the subject site. This is the proposed future land use map. This is looking behind home plate of the baseball field, looking northeast across 22nd Street Park. This is looking south across 22nd Street Park. This is another image looking south towards the entrance to the park. And this is looking west. This request would remove the consideration of residential, non-residential development from the subject site. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff found the request consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment on this item? Any questions, comments from commissioners? Commissioner Green.
Quick question, Danny. That little acute triangular piece that's flanking the west side of 22nd Street, is that under two land use designations currently, or one of the maps shows?
I think you're referring to this piece right here.
I can't see it there. It's
Can you put the, there you go.
yeah, the piece
This
where
piece.
you're right there where your cursor is, right?
Yeah, this piece is actually associated with a different parcel. So we had to do this part, these two parts. This piece was not associated with the subject parcels.
Okay, but I see the color changing on the piece below that also.
Right here?
Yes.
That's currently the recreational open space.
That's already
Right.
designated. Okay, all right, good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Comments? Someone like to make a motion? Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to propose that we find TACPA 19-18E consistent and forward it to Tampa City Council.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Powell. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Cardenas. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
Our next site is Site F. It's Tappan Tract Park. It's in the South Tampa Planning District, and more specifically, it's in the Port Tampa City neighborhood. This is an aerial of the subject site. You'll see that it's predominantly residential to the east and south of the subject site, and then there's some industrial just to the south of the subject site. This area up here is all environmental sensitive land. This is the adopted future land use map. The site has 3 future land use categories. This teal color is environmental sensitive land. This brown color is residential 35, and then this light gray color is light industrial. This is the proposed future land use map. This is looking north across Tappan Tract Park from the corner of North Prescott and South Sherrill Street. This is looking west across Tappan Tract Park. This is looking at some of the existing residents that are just east of the subject site. Again, this request would remove the consideration of residential and non-residential development from the subject site. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff found the request consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Any public comment on this item? Please come forward. State your name and address.
I didn't sign in
Oh,
for.
that's all right.
Okay, great. Thank you, Matt, or Danny, because I spoke to you on the phone today, and I'd like to publicly thank him for just kind of letting me know how it works here and make me feel at home while I'm here.
Please
Thank
give
you.
your name and address.
My name is Miranda Lessie. My address is 5014 West Lancaster Street, Tampa, Florida, 33616. I live right in this area of the park. I walk by it almost daily. What we're concerned with, and my husband would be here with me as well, but he's homesick, so he asked me to say something about the flooding in the area that is probably going to get worse if residential building did take place in this area. So we're all very happy with the zoning decision. In fact, we didn't even know it was open for residential. We thought it was all just protected. So there are 2 apartment buildings being built at the same time around us, and we're all concerned what's going to happen with the water that's going to be the water table that's going to be raised there in that area once those are finished. So we're very happy that this would be switching to a non-residential, non-industrial area and keep our flooding down. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Any questions from commissioners? Someone like to make a motion? Commissioner Joseph.
I make a motion that we find TA CPA 19-18F consistent and forward it on to the City Council of Tampa.
Okay, got a motion by Commissioner Joseph, a second by Commissioner Dowdy. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. The last one.
Okay. This is our last park. It's Site G. It's Takomah Trail Park. It's in the University Planning District, and more specifically, it's in the Terrace Park neighborhood. This is an aerial of the subject site and the surrounding properties. It's outlined in this purple color. You'll see the surrounding area is predominantly single-family residential. The site this is the adopted future land use map. The site has 2 future land use categories. The northern portion is this residential 10, denoted by this tan color, and then to the south is residential 20. You'll see the site's predominantly surrounded by that residential 10. There's some residential 20 just to the south of the site, and then residential 35, and you get more to the east of the subject site. This is the adopted future land use map. I'm sorry, this was the proposed future land use map. This is looking at access to the Takomah Trail, which provides a trail through Takomah Trail Park. This is looking east across Takomah Trail Park. This is looking at residential structures that are adjacent to the park. Again, this would remove the consideration of residential, non-residential development from the subject site. The Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed map amendment be found consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment on this item? Any questions from commissioners? Okay, someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Last one.
The motion is that we find City of Tampa TA/CPA 19-18 Site G consistent with the future city land use plan.
Got a motion by Commissioner Cardenas, second by Commissioner Joseph. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. That was our last item. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.